This is Raven Dana, and thanks for tuning in to Walking Between the Worlds. This is Class 3 of our fall series, Being a Human Being in a Living World. The first couple of classes we spent looking at our energy and how to balance ourselves out and ways to get back into and to stay in the flow. In this class, we're going to do something a little different. I want us to take a look at how we can become more aware of the living world around us. And when I say the living world around us, I do mean the animals and the trees and the bugs and the birds, but I mean everything. The ground under our feet, the clouds in the sky, the rocks in the garden. Everything is consciousness. Everything is made, including ourselves, from energy. Therefore, everything has a life force. Just because we can't understand the language of the rocks or the language of the birds, it doesn't mean that there isn't communication happening. What it mostly means is that we've either lost or forgotten how to communicate with the living world at large. In fact, there are people that probably you know a few of them who are much better at hearing and understanding some of those communications. People who are close to the land, people who are gardeners, people who are farmers, whose business it is to actually be in tune with the cycles of nature and the ways that plants and animals communicate with us and with each other. And I don't mean it like in a Disney kind of way where, you're hearing the mice speak. I mean it in a deep awareness way in which you are able to recognize that the life forms around you, as you acknowledge them, they are also acknowledging you. In fact, the life forms around you are aware of you whether or not you're aware of them, because they don't have the same kind of minds that we do. They don't take that step of separation that we, in our we say how evolved we are, but that evolution is a sword that cuts both ways. It allows us great leaps of imagination and the ability to create things that we've never seen before by using our imagination. But unfortunately, it also gives us access to closing the door to our awareness and to cutting ourselves off from the rest of the living world that we participate in. It's not just that we participate in the living world, we are of the world. We rise from nature. We are directly connected to everything around us because it is also within us. I'm going to remind you that we are able with our senses to perceive less than 1% of the known frequencies. That's just the known frequencies, right? We know that there are sounds that our ears can't hear. We know that there are colors in the spectrum that our eyes can't pick up. We know these things, and we know that other animals can hear things we can't, can see things that we can't. So even in the most mundane daily reality, we do have a clue that the world around us is a much deeper, bigger reality than we typically are aware of. And it's not that we couldn't be aware. In fact, the more aware we are, the easier it is to stay in the flow, to get the messages from our deeper minds, from the things and people and the living world around us, because we do enter into a constant communication, whether we know it or not, whether we are aware of it or not. And so this week I want to talk to you a little bit about cultivating that awareness, sitting with that truth that the world is alive around us, that we're not superior. Just because we can kill off the rest of the planet doesn't mean that we're better than the rest of the planet. In fact, I think it means we're quite a bit less evolved than we think we are. But that's a conversation for a different class. What I'd like you to take a look at today, though, is how we humans have come to see even the most common of other life forms as inconveniences, nuisances, enemies. right? How quickly we will kill something that comes in our house. How quickly we'll kill a bat rather than set it free. How quickly we'll exterminate spiders because we're afraid of them. How quickly we'll, right, do those kinds of things. And look, I'm not saying you should let your house be overrun with something. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the mindset of being positioned against nature rather than cooperating with and being part of the natural world leaves us at a serious disadvantage. And the climate is one of the ways in which that has become a disadvantage, okay? But we can today, in our daily lives, become a little more awake to the living world around us, and that's what I'm inviting you to do. If you have a pet, I'm sure you're quite aware that that pet is a little being, a personality, a creature that has an alliance with you. See if you can start there if you have a pet. Or if you don't, start with something that you enjoy watching. Maybe the birds. Maybe there's a squirrel in the neighborhood that you enjoy watching run up and down the tree. Feed the squirrel a nut or two. Sit and listen to those birds. Let the wall down between your humanness and your animal nature. They are not different. They are not separate. We are animals. We are pack animals. Yes, we are human and we are animals. Therefore, we speak the language of other animals, whether we let ourselves be aware of it or not. We have a nervous system that reaches out and touches the nervous system of the life forms around us. And even for those life forms that don't have nervous systems, in our sense of the word, the living earth, the living trees, the living rocks, they still possess a kind of awareness. Whether it's our kind of awareness or not is irrelevant. We know people in history who have shamans, for example. Different cultures have a history of being able to communicate with stones, with trees, with rivers, with the mountains, with the wind, with the weather. This isn't a myth. This is through many, many generations of experience. There are still people today who have the skill of interfacing consciously with the living world. We have the skill as well, although it may not be conscious. So let's start small. Let's start by taking a little bit of time this week to go sit in nature and experience the experience of the life around us. Feel what it might be like to be the tree that you're leaning against. Put your mind down into the ground and see what life forms might be there. Just feel your way through it. And then I suggest that you go home and do a little research. Look it up. Google up some things, but have the experience first. And then go see if what you're experiencing, what you have experienced, has a basis in fact. Because I'm here to tell you, if you do it that way, you'll notice that you're more tuned in than you think you are. I can remember many, many years ago when I was 21, 22, something like young. I was very young. And I had first read information about Findhorn. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. It's a place in Scotland where they talk to the plants, where they communicate and cooperate with the nature spirits, and where in the most unlikely of places, in the most unlikely of soils and climates, they were known to grow the most huge, extraordinary plants. So the Findhorn still exists today. It is a spiritual center, and the garden is still there. Now, I'm bringing this up because when I first read about this, even though I had grown up in a family where things like gnomes and fairies were taken for granted, it's not like we talked about them and pointed to them, but we just imagined, we experienced a world in which the unseen was as real as the seen. So I never doubted that things like that were true. What I got, though, when I actually read Findhorn, the Findhorn material many, many years ago, was that these people could communicate directly with plants. And so I did a little experiment. I took some seeds and I sat with them in the palm of my hand, and I just imagined that they would let me in, that the seed, whatever it was, would let me in to see what it needed, what its life was like, what the soil conditions should be, what kind of sun it needed. And I did this with a couple of different plants. I remember I was planting a garden at the time, so one thing I did was peas. That's one thing I held in my hand. But what I did was I held the stuff in my hand, I took some notes, and then of course we didn't have internet in those days. Then I hightailed it to the library and I looked the stuff up. And I'm telling you, I was shocked by how clearly I got some memos about things that these particular plants needed. That I'm to this day, I'm no gardener. And at that time, that was the first garden I ever planted. So I'm telling you, I was clueless, and yet I found that there was a way to open myself to the possibility of communicating with the intelligence of the plants. And they let me know what they needed. And when I then went and researched it, I was surprised how accurate, in fact, some of it was. So you can do that experiment if you like, but I'm suggesting you do something much simpler than that. Go sit in your favorite place and feel your way around. Let yourself literally open the gates of your perception and invite the living world to communicate with you directly. It does anyway. The difference is now you're going to take a moment and listen. And I don't mean listen with your noisy mind. That's going to happen. You're going to make things up. You're going to wonder if, you're imagining things. It really doesn't matter. The important thing is you sit quietly. You pay attention like you would if you were with a friend. And if you want to take some notes, do it. If you want to take some notes about a certain bird that you see or trees that you see, go ahead and do that. And then when you get home, Google it up and see what you discover. I think that you'll find that there is a skill lurking in the background of your awareness, that a part of you is already in tune with and in touch with the living world and the way that it communicates with us. Another thing that we do all the time is sometimes we will unconsciously or even consciously will ask for a sign. We'll ask for, is this going to work out for me? And then we'll see something. Maybe we'll see 3 crows flying across our path and think, yes, that's it. Maybe our favorite animal is an owl, and out of nowhere we'll hear an owl in a tree. Maybe we get signals in the form of butterflies, and there we'll all suddenly see one. So again, I'm not suggesting that you start making meaning out of everything that you see. I am suggesting that you already have in place a way of reaching out and communicating with the unseen world, and it communicates back to you. A lot of times it goes unnoticed, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening. So imagine this. I want you to just get this for a moment. Look around the space in which you're sitting right now, whatever it is, wherever you are. Look at if you're inside, and I imagine you will be, look at the computer, look at the desk, look at the walls, look at the pictures that you have, look at any rocks or stones in your environment, and just feel your way into your environment as if everything you're looking at is also looking at you. Just get that for a moment. That as you see, you are also seen. And that's a fine and good thing. You can't not be seen in a living universe because we're connected in consciousness. And here's an interesting and odd way that I sometimes think of it. I play with the idea that what if the universe is like a bowl of Jell-O, and we are each pieces of pineapple in that Jell-O? So we are directly connected by this vibrating medium. And whatever we think and say and feel and wish for and fear goes out from us in all directions into the fabric of reality. And it does, in fact, reach all the other pieces of pineapple out there, whether we know it or not. So again, I want to reinforce this idea that in the big scheme of things, life is about life. The universe does have your back. It's like imagine it like a gyroscope, right? A spinning wheel that the faster it spins, the easier it is to stay on course. It's not going to wobble. It's not going to topple over. Like riding a bicycle, right? When you go really slowly, you're more wobbly. But a gyroscope, if the universe has this, we'll call it a gyroscopic effect, then the more in the flow we are, the more likely we are to have the momentum of our lives carry us forward in a positive and meaningful way. So play with that just a little bit. I mean, I'm throwing out these ideas so that you can experiment at this time of year when the gates between the worlds are wide open and summer is slipping into fall, and we're moving into the season of going below ground, below consciousness, into our deeper awareness, into the cave of our being, into that place where we hide things, or we hide from ourselves, or we hide secrets, or we hide things we don't like. So also hidden within our depths are wonders and marvels. There are places to go and experiences to have that are widely available to us if we'll only just be still enough to get out of our own way. And that's my invitation to you this week, to begin that process of exploring the connections that you have with the living world around you, with plants and animals, with rocks and trees and stones and grasses, to explore your relationship to the sky, to weather, to wind. Just feel your way through it and see what happens. And please feel free to reach out to me, to write some things down, or to send me an email, or to post a remark. I'm happy to hear your experiences and to chat with you about those experiences. So anyway, that is my thought for today. I'd like you to also take a look at where in your life you may be sitting in opposition to nature. Are you throwing a bunch of chemicals on your lawn? Why are you doing that? Are you raking the leaves beyond recognition when they fall instead of letting some of them take care of the bees and the wasps and the creatures that are in the ground? You know, we do a lot of things out of a very strange and misplaced social structure about what is expected of us. And I'm telling you that it's possible to push back. You don't have to do everything that's expected of you. And again, I'm not suggesting that you let your front lawn grow to be 12 feet tall. I am suggesting that you stop poisoning the environment if you happen to be somebody that's doing that. I will make the suggestion that you consider not raking up every leaf so that there is something left on the ground that's the way it's supposed to be. I am suggesting that if there are some small measures that you can take to align yourself more directly with the living world, think about that. Do that. Maybe you want to eat organic. Maybe you want to stop eating, if you can afford to do it, factory-fed animals and only eat what has been humanely raised. So there are plenty of things that you can do. You can start in all kinds of little ways. You can start in your own home by just watering your plants and talking to them a little more. I'm not suggesting that you change your entire life in 1 week. I am suggesting that you allow yourself to be a completely conscious participant in the living world around you. Pay attention to your dreams. Write them down. See what you're telling yourself when you've slipped down underneath that little point of awareness that you live in during the day into the bigger, larger body of your consciousness. There's plenty of information there. And I don't know about you, but I've certainly had dreams in which I have deliberately and easily communicated with things that in my waking state I might not have considered communicating with, like rocks or, buildings. So let yourself play, let yourself be free to explore and see what happens next. And we'll go back to this subject next week and we'll take it a step farther. So Welcome to the fall. We have now passed the equinox, so we're slipping more into the dark time every day, losing a few minutes of light. So let that be a place, a way for you to contemplate, to sit with, to be with things that you don't normally consider. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the subject for today. Again, this is Raven Dana, and I'm happy that you're with me today. Thank you so much for being here with me in Walking Between the Worlds. See you next time.